Hello everyone, my name is CJ Flintoff, and I will be talking about if college students with learning disabilities or ADHD decide what method of delivery they want to learn from. Meaning, like, do they get to pick what works best for them when it comes to education? Maybe? There you go. Okay, so quick intro is my research questions are: should kids with learning disabilities be able to decide their learning method, or should parents and administrators decide for them? So this is an old research question, and I know it needs to be reworded, but basically what I'm trying to say is, should these people be able to decide for themselves what method of delivery or education, the way they prefer to learn, should they be able to decide that, or should the administrators or the people that are above them make that decision? Um, my second research question is how people with learning disabilities, or how do people with learning disabilities prefer to learn? So I know for me personally, I prefer to learn one-on-one, but I know that there's multiple different ways that you can learn, and like some people prefer the normal education system as it is, and some people prefer to do online and learn by themselves. Also, I'm so sorry if I keep clicking on and off of this. I am having a huge coughing fit right now, and I know none of you want to hear that, so I'm trying to save you from that. But anyway, I think I'm on question 3. So, question 3 is, how much support have you received, or how much support do you want from your parents when it comes to education? I know it's different in so many different households, and I feel like it's such an interesting question that needs to be talked about. My fourth research question is, do parents not care about their kids learning and send them to school anyway, or do they try their best to get their kid the help they need? So, it's kind of talking about family again. It might be a touchy question, but like, I want to know, like, is the household that you were raised in, did that affect your ability to learn? My field research plans are: I will interview students who have a learning disability or ADHD, which I will always hyphenate it like that, just because ADHD is not a learning disability and learning disability is not ADHD. They are often grouped together, but I just want to clearly separate them because they are not the exact same thing. They're just grouped together a lot. And then I want students who specifically go to a university. I don't want people from high school or middle school or even a community college, because mainly because a university is my like easiest demographic to go to, but also it's just because it is my peers as well. Um, and then I will ask about their personal experience in the education system, what resources they use, and ones that are helpful, if they've had times where they felt that the education system was not fair to them, or if they know about self advocacy. So, my first source is called Inside and Out: Factors That Support and Hinder the Self Advocacy of Undergrads with ADHD or Specific Learning Disabilities, in specifically STEM. So, basically, this article just talks about how learning disabilities are underrepresented in STEM majors, and there's this huge barrier between STEM majors not being able to get the help that they need because they lack sort of knowledge of self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is just like basically putting up a front for yourself, and you basically saying like, this is a problem, I need this fixed because this will benefit me. So like, for example, I need an accommodation because I can't do this and I need it taught to me in a different way, or I need more time, or just something like that. Um, in this study, they basically found out that like with STEM majors, because of the course curriculum and the kind of um, hardiness, I guess, of the STEM major itself, makes it to where, for some reason, it makes it to where kids with learning disabilities or ADHD are less likely to self advocate, get the accommodations that they need. They're less likely to communicate with their professors when something's going wrong. And I love this source. I think it's a really good source to use because self-advocacy, I'm learning for myself, is so important. And I also like this source because it deals with specifically STEM majors, and like that's also a hindrance because I'm just doing university. I'm not doing specifically STEM majors, but I really like it for me because I am a STEM major and I have ADHD, and I think that this specifically is a great article. So my synthesis basically just for future me is that like this article talks about specifically STEM majors, and that this article also specifically talks about how important self-advocacy is. Okay, so my second source is called From Disability to Diversity, College Students for Students with Learning Disabilities, ADHD, and Autism Spectrum Disorder. So this is a very interesting article, but unfortunately, I cannot actually find the actual article. There is only this sort of review, and it basically just summarizes this article, and it's its own article. It's very weird. I think it's like one of the peer-reviewed papers because I put on my filter for one search that I wanted peer-reviewed papers, but it gave me a review paper, and I didn't really realize that until I had started this. So I will most likely not be using this source in my like I won't be using this source in my research project just because I don't have enough information. I just have a summary of what happened. But that's basically all I have for this one. I know it's really short, but yeah. Okay, so my third source is University Students with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD, a consensus statement from the UK Adult ADHD Network. So for this article, they basically, like, it was very generalized. They want to know, they want everybody to know what ADHD is and help provide, like, an informed understanding of the impact that ADHD has when it comes to the success rate of students. So the method that they used for this is they just got a huge panel of, like, really, not famous, that's not the word, but really like a panel of experts. That's the word I was, oh my gosh, I had to read my words. Um of practitioners and experts in England to gather analysis, relations, or that's supposed to say opinions, not opines. Sorry about that. But basically just gather a general idea of what's supposed to happen when it comes to being able to better the success rate of students in university with ADHD. And I really like this source, but there are a few things that like do hinder me from wanting to use it. First of all, it's in the UK. I do not live in the UK. And I can't really remember their definition of university. It might be high school because I know in France it's different, so it might be different in the UK. And also, I didn't really like this article because they never had a person that actually does have ADHD on that panel. It was 20 pages of just people that were experts in the field talking about what should happen, and there was never a person that actually had ADHD that was on that panel to give their sort of census or say and like what happened. So that kind of frustrates me a little bit because the whole purpose of me doing this is to give people with learning disabilities or to give people with ADHD sort of a voice to be like, hey, this is what we don't like, this is what we need to happen, and we need to be heard, sort of thing. And I feel like that's kind of missing in this. But, and for the census, I basically just put that it has expert opinions in it still, and it is still useful. And it could also provide detail of like how to have a better success rate. Okay, so for my fourth source, I have the Internal Restlessness Scale, performance of college students with and without ADHD. So this article takes people that have ADHD and people, or university students, sorry, that have ADHD and that don't have ADHD, and they test them for their internal restlessness scale, which it's basically like this machine to see how your brain reacts, and just kind of like when it kind of stops caring, if that, like, just general terms, um how easily you get burnt out with something. And I think it was very interesting, actually, because and in the end they did find out that, like, people with ADHD, their internal restlessness scale is like, we get a lot tired. Like, we get tired way more quickly than people that don't have ADHD or learning disability. And it really just, like, gives me peace of mind when I know that, like, there are some things that you can actually test for that is different between people with and without ADHD. I really like this article because it shows the difference between people with ADHD and people without it. I also like the demographic that they picked because they picked undergrads. Um, but the issue that I have with this article is they don't really talk about what comes next after the results. They basically just go, here are our results, but they don't ever, like, offer, they're missing the whole offering a problem and offering a solution to that problem. This is simply just a research thing. So that's the only thing that I, like, wish that they had. Um, And then my fifth source is, I'm going to try to get through this quickly, is We Can Do Better, Community College Facility Preparedness for Teaching Students with Learning Disabilities. Basically, this was a huge study that talked about how faculty members are not prepared to handle kids with learning disabilities, not to handle, but to teach, and the ways that, like, they specifically like to teach. And I like this article because it touched on, like, how they should be taught how to teach these kids, or is it really worth it, because, like, obviously teachers don't get paid a lot, um and, like, kind of what kind of outcomes that it would have if, attitudes were improved and people felt more comfortable to talk about um their learning disabilities. um my evaluation on this article is, I think it was great. The one thing is, it's a community college demographic and not a university demographic, but in a sense, it still is useful because attitudes, like, it's the whole self-advocacy thing, right? So attitudes and self-advocacy are so important for, like, baby steps for people with learning disabilities or ADHD to feel comfortable enough to talk about it. Because if you're constantly shutting a kid down, they're not going to want to talk about it. And I feel like this is such a good mindset to have and such a good article to read if you want to, like if you want to be prepared to handle kids like this, if that makes sense. I don't know. Um this article also talks about some common myths um about kids with learning disabilities, and I really like that section, and I think I'll actually use it in my research article because um, there are a lot of myths to debunk. So, alrighty, and that is it. Thank you for listening to this, listening to me ramble. All right, bye.